Welcome to the Feed Your Family Tonight podcast. Do you dread hearing the question, what's for dinner? Whether you spend your days keeping up with toddlers, running kids to after-school activities, or juggling a career and family, getting dinner on the table can be a struggle for us all. I'm Mariefiebach, a business owner, wife, and mom of 4. I'm on a mission to build stronger families one dinner at a time, and I'm here with tips, tricks, and inspiration you need to feed your family tonight. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Feed Your Family Tonight podcast, episode 174. I'm your host, Mariefiebach. I am so happy to be here with you today because today we are talking about one of my favorite things in the entire world, and that is kitchen gadgets. Oh my gosh, you guys, I love me a good kitchen gadget. Like, put me in Bed Bath & Beyond at the OXO display and everything is black and silver and shiny and new, and I can get sucked in really, really fast. There are so many fun possibilities, and don't even get me started about IKEA. A couple of weeks ago, I went to IKEA and I literally took the store backwards. I didn't go upstairs. I just cut past the registers and then traced my way back to the houseware section because there's one particular spatula that they have that I love. And of course, they didn't have it there the day I was there, and I was so disappointed. But kitchen gadgets are so much fun. But what do you really need? I mean, I love my tea ball that has a big yellow flower at the top, but do I really need a tea ball with a yellow flower at the top? Probably not. Today, we're going to dive into some of my favorite kitchen gadgets. I'm going to start by telling you the ones that I think are pretty essential, and then we'll get into some of my favorite ones. And we're going to talk a little bit about brands that I prefer and also good places to source quality information on finding good kitchen gadgets. A few years ago, I did a presentation for the Next Phase Parenting Summit. This was an online summit for parents of teenagers and young adults who were transitioning from high school to college to young adulthood. And I did a presentation on your first kitchen essentials, talking with the parents about what they needed to start looking for to get their child in their first apartment, because it can be really expensive to go and set up the kitchen of a first apartment. And so I said, start looking at estate sales and look at garage sales, and found them some ways where they can find the things. But I gave them a list of what they needed. If you want to access that list, you can get it free. It's at feedyourfamilytonight.com/parents. And it has the basic things that you need to kind of get a functional first apartment kitchen. There was everything on there from cups and plates and pots and pans and dish towels. But today I'm going to focus on the gadgets that were on that list that I feel are really essential to the basics of a kitchen. I mean, of course, you need a knife and a cutting board, but we're going to go a little deeper than that. Everybody needs a veggie peeler. And I am going to talk brands on this one. I really like the Kuhn-Rikon ones. I'll link to them in the show notes. They're Y-shaped, and some people have complained that they get a little rusty, and I just run mine in the dishwasher and I don't worry about it, and they're not expensive, so I replace them every 3 years. I just buy new ones. I also think everybody needs a can opener, and I like the one by Kuhn-Rikon as well. That is a brand that I have started to follow more, and I'm really liking the products that are coming out of it. I'm not endorsed by them or anything, but I have really liked some of their products. I like their can opener. Everyone should have a flat wire whisk. And when I say flat, I mean not a balloon whisk. I mean, a balloon whisk is great, but if you're only going to have one whisk, a flat one is so much better for stirring things like a macaroni and cheese sauce in a pan, because it can get to the edges of a pan. And a pair of tongs that are silicone tipped so you can use them in a nonstick skillet and not scrape it up. You need a good serving spoon and a good ladle to scoop whatever's coming out of your pots and pans. And a fine mesh strainer, which you can use to drain pasta, and you can use it to sift flour, and you can use it to get the lumps out of gravy. And a fine mesh strainer is so handy, and a box grater, because you're going to want to grate some cheese, or you might want to grate some carrots for lettuce wraps or something. A box grater is super handy. Of course, you want measuring cups and measuring spoons. And if you are a pretty active cook, I usually recommend having 2 sets of measuring cups and measuring spoons. In a first kitchen, 1 of each is fine. I also like to have a liquid measuring cup. A 2-cup one is the perfect size for most measuring tasks because you can get down to a 1/4 cup all the way up to 2 cups. So I love a 2-cup measuring cup. And then here is an unusual thing that I put on that first kitchen essentials list that you might not think about, but is one of my absolute most favorite kitchen gadgets. And that is binder clips, like the kind that you get at the office supply store. You can get them in colors, but traditionally they're black and silver. They're kind of like a paper clip, but you can get more paper in it than a standard paper clip. I love binder clips because they are my favorite thing for closing up a bag of chips or a bag of pretzels, or if you have like a bag of coconut flour or something in your freezer, or even a half-used bag of frozen veggies, or in my kids' case, frozen pizza rolls. Binder clips are great in the freezer. They can be out on the counter, and they are my favorite thing. So go to your office supply store and get yourself a box of binder clips. So that's kind of the basics. But you guys want to go a little deeper with me and talk about some of my non-essential favorite kitchen gadgets? These are things that I use almost all the time in my kitchen, and they make my life so much easier, and I love, love, love them. So these are kind of like the little extras that make life easier that I can't live without in my home. A few weeks ago, I actually went through and I cleaned out my kitchen gadget drawers, and I was getting kind of really frustrated because I was always digging for the things that I wanted. And so I tossed a bunch of stuff, but then I separated my kitchen gadget drawers into things that I use weekly and the things that I don't use as frequently. And only the few things that I use almost every week made it into that top drawer of my kitchen gadgets. And the drawer is a lot less packed. There's only a few really essential items in there. And most of the things I'm talking about today go in that top drawer because I'm using them all the time in my kitchen. And the first one is a garlic press. I love myself a garlic press because you can quote unquote mince garlic with just pushing it through the garlic press. It's a handy tool if you're using fresh garlic that I think most kitchens should have. The next one is a microplane grater. Now, microplane is a brand name, and they make all sorts of different kinds of graters. Some of them are like wide and fat, almost like the size of an index card with a handle. And some of them are long and narrow. And I like the long and narrow one, about the length of a ruler. That is what I use to zest lemons. And I use it to grate nutmeg. And my daughter uses it almost every day to grate a little bit of Parmesan cheese on whatever she is eating. It is one of my most essential kitchen gadgets. I love it. I use it all the time. And if you are a fan of lemon zest or a little bit of finely grated Parmesan cheese, it is definitely worth having in your kitchen. The other one, while we're talking about lemons, because lemons are life to me, I love lemons, is my hand tool for juicing lemons. I have one by OXO. You just put half of a lemon in it and squeeze it and your lemon juice comes out. It just makes juicing lemons so much easier. It keeps the seeds in the lemon juicer so you don't have to worry about like picking seeds out of whatever you've squeezed the juice into. I happen to have a quart of water with half of a lemon in it every day, every night before I go to bed. I take half of a lemon and I use my lemon juicer and I put it into a quart jar and then I fill it to the top with water. And then I set that by my bathroom sink and I drink a quart of lemon water in the mornings. It's just something like, friends, I travel with lemons. I don't take my lemon squeezer. I just kind of squeeze them by hands when I travel, but like I have to have my lemon water every day. It's just something that is part of my routine and I love it. So if you are juicing a lot of lemons or limes or citrus, a handheld lemon or citrus juicer is a really useful tool. Another tool that I probably should have on the essentials list, and that is an instant read thermometer. This is a game changer if you are cooking any kind of meat, but especially if you are cooking boneless, skinless chicken breast, because they are so easy to overcook and everybody's worried about getting foodborne illnesses. A thermometer will take care of that. Boneless, skinless chicken breasts are fully cooked at 165 degrees, according to the FDA. Get yourself a instant read thermometer. My favorite one is like $12, friends. It is not expensive. And I've had one in my kitchen that has lasted. I haven't even had to change the battery in it for like 12 years. Like, it is hands down one of my most used kitchen tools. I love it, love it, love it. And everyone should have an instant read thermometer. Now, we're kind of getting into some of the more niche kitchen gadgets, but a number 40 scoop. This is a purple handled scoop. Number 40 is a very specific size. It holds just under 2 tablespoons, I believe, give or take. It is the perfect size for mini muffins. It is the perfect size for cookies. It is for smaller cookies, not like giant cookies, but for smaller cookies. I use my number 40 scoop all the time. It is such a handy kitchen tool. Again, not expensive, $12. It's not an expensive tool, but I use it all the time. A bench scraper, which is just a flat piece of metal with a small little handle on it that you can use to scoop up veggies. You can use it to scrape dough off of a countertop after you've like rolled out pie crust and you get the little squishy pieces or something. A bench scraper is something that I use all the time. If you like wine, you probably need a corkscrew, but I probably didn't have to tell you needed a corkscrew if you were someone that likes wine. A pizza cutter. If you have little kids, a pizza cutter is kind of life-changing because you can use it to like cut up their sandwiches. You can cut their hot dogs into little pieces. Like if you've got little kids that you're cutting food into little pieces, a pizza cutter is crazy essential, but it's also really helpful. Like I have bigger kids and they're making frozen pizzas and those types of things. So a pizza cutter is really helpful. I really like the one by OXO. It has a really nice size wheel. Super, super handy. I love myself a good little latte on Sunday mornings. I drink 2 cups of decaf coffee a week. I drink one on Wednesday mornings when I go to coffee with my friends. I've gone to coffee with friends for like 10 years now, every Wednesday morning at 6:30 in the morning. And I'll have a cup of coffee then. And then on Sunday mornings when I am making breakfast, which is kind of more like brunch, I always like to have myself a cup of decaf coffee with frothy milk. I have a milk frother that I love, love, love. All of these links will be in the show notes for this and in the blog post for this episode. But I love my little milk frother. It's a little hand one and it definitely suits my needs. It's nothing fancy, but it works great. Now, when my son took home economics class, your kids can't learn from you, so you send them to someone else to learn. When my son took foods class in home economics, there was a lot of debate about what is a scraper and what is a turner. In my house, I call them both spatulas. He told me that a turner is something that you're using to like flip pancakes, so it has kind of an angled head on it. Whereas a scraper is something that you're using to like scrape batter out of a bowl. I affectionately call them both spatulas. I call one a silicone spatula and one just a spatula, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. That's kind of a Midwest semantics type of thing. But I love the silicone scrapers that you use to scrape batter out of a bowl from Williams-Sonoma. And for some reason, I've really liked their wooden handle ones that they have 3 different kinds. They have one that's just kind of a standard size, one that is oversized, and then one that has a little bit of a spoon in it. And I have all 3 of them in my kitchen. I've had them in my kitchen for years. I do not worry about putting the wood in the dishwasher. I know some people do. I don't. I just throw them in the dishwasher. The big one is great for like folding in egg whites into a souffle or anything that you're folding in batters. It's got lots of surface area and it's amazing. The regular size one is my go-to. I use it anytime I'm scraping batter out of a bowl or scraping a cheese sauce out of a pan. Super handy. Use it all the time. And the one with the spoon is kind of nice for when you're trying to kind of like scoop and scrape at the same time. I have several spatulas in lots of different fun colors and I use them all, but I really like the ones from Williams-Sonoma. I also think everyone should have a rolling pin, and rolling pins are interesting because there's two kind of main types. They're the ones that my mother grew up with, where you have the handles and then the actual rolling pin part is separate from the handles and it kind of free rolls as you move the handles. Or there's the French style rolling pin, which is basically like a slightly oval shaped long piece of wood. And I grew up with the kind that had the handles where the wood rolled free on it. And I have learned to really prefer the French kind. I have both in my drawer and I use them both, but I find that I'm going towards the French one more. But if you're making cinnamon rolls or pie crusts, you're going to want to have a rolling pin in your kitchen. The last thing that's kind of in my top drawer, quote unquote, top drawer of kitchen gadgets that I use pretty frequently is a pastry brush. And I really prefer a pastry brush with natural bristles, but with a plastic handle. And the reason why is I've had pastry brushes that have had wooden handles, but then they have metal on them, and the metal seems to rust when I put it in the dishwasher, and I don't like that. And the silicone pastry brush is good for like putting barbecue sauce on chicken on the grill, but it's not delicate enough for spreading slightly softened butter onto cinnamon roll dough. So I really like natural bristles with a plastic handle. And this is really important. You probably need two pastry brushes. You should have one that is dedicated for things sweet, things that like just plain butter or anything that's going to be sweet, and then have one that is dedicated for things savory, because the bristles sometimes will hang on to flavors and you don't want your cinnamon rolls to taste like the garlic marinade you put on your chicken last night. So you probably want two pastry brushes. Again, I like natural bristles with a plastic handle. OXO makes one. It's great. Dishwasher safe. It's awesome. The last couple of things that are kind of in my essential kitchen gadgets list, but are not in my top shelf because I do not use them as frequently as the other things, are a small little, I call it a spatula. My son would call it a turner, for serving things like brownies and pies. I have a couple of different ones. I've gotten them at Dollar Tree. They're not anything fancy, but just small little spatulas or servers for serving brownies or pies, because you don't want a big one when you're trying to cut something small and delicate. The last thing is I have a few icing spatulas. They are plastic handled with some of them have a flat metal blade and some of them have an offset, so a slightly bent metal blade. And I actually have several. Some are flat, some are big, some are small. I use my flat one and my offset one. If I only had to pick one, I would pick a flat one, but having a flat and an offset spatula for icing cakes, especially when you're trying to get like a really smooth edge, nothing works quite as well as a really nice long metal icing spatula. Friends, I could talk about kitchen gadgets for days. I almost feel like this was a little bit boring. So I want to know if you liked hearing about kitchen gadgets, or if you're like, that's a little bit boring, Marie. Maybe not next time. Let me know in the Feed Your Family Tonight Facebook group, because I want to hear. I also want to know what your favorite kitchen gadgets are. Again, the post for this is going to have a ton of links. So if you want to find the ones that I have and the brands that I prefer. Ooh, and I promised at the beginning of the episode, I would tell you one of my favorite places to get reliable information on kitchen gadgets, and that is from America's Test Kitchen. They have an entire team that is doing nothing but testing kitchen equipment all the time. Their archives are long and deep, and if you are trying to vet brands of a specific kitchen gadget, they have probably tested it. And so check out their website. I'll link to it as well, because there are a lot of great gadgets out there and some that are total duds. And most of the time, America's Test Kitchen has already tested them for you. So there you go. And when in doubt, OXO is usually always good. And I'm really liking Kuhn Rikon. So those are kind of the brands that I go to. So friends, can't wait to talk with you next week. Hope you're doing well. Take care.